as a Canadian looking in on America, here we're going to shut down the U.S. government because we can't pay our bills. If you're a gambling man, would you bet the U.S. is going to print more money or stop printing and actually start paying its bills? Hello. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. And I don't know if there's any good news at all. And it's a very important show, Rich Dad Radio Show, simply because of where the government, the United States is and the world's at. We have a war that's not going to end. There's not much good news. Now, the good news is when things are really bad, more opportunities appear. So I'm going to be forthright with you, tell you the best that I know. I'm not going to try and sugarcoat anything and tell you, hey, don't worry, just, don't worry, be happy. It'll be good tomorrow. Our government is on the verge of shutting down. This is September 2023. America is bankrupt. Our debt to GDP ratio is at all-time high. And our government keeps printing money. I just can't believe what's going on. So I'm going to be straightforward, upright, tell you the best I know. I think what we're in today in the stock market, I don't play the stock market, as you know. And but I have a lot of friends that do, and I interview people who are very good at the stock market. But what's happening right now is called a silent top. So remember, this is 2023, September. It means a silent top means a crash is happening in the big cap, not the small cap. So today, Apple's in serious trouble. And Apple was one of the fangs, it was a darling. Everybody was into Apple, buy the dip. Apple's great. Apple's down 11% as I talked today. Could be off by a few points. So the question is, how does that affect precious metals? But more importantly, what can you do? So our guest today is Jay Martin, young man I tremendously respect. Jay is head of the VRIC, Vancouver Resource Investors Conference. It's a conference I go to. I go to a lot of investor conferences, but I'll explain to you later why I like Jay's. Not the best, but it's different than all the other investment conferences. So the investment conference you go to depends on who you are. So with that, I will welcome Jay Martin to the show, and he's in Vancouver, British Columbia, a Canadian guy. And I spent much of my youth in Vancouver. And that's why Vancouver is where I say the Frito Bandito hangs out. There's a lot of people who buy stocks, a lot of people buy bonds, a lot of people buy gold, and a lot of people buy silver. And when you invest in gold and silver, people talk about the mining company. Do you own shares of this company or that company? So and I own the physical metal, plus I own the miners. So just don't know that there's a lot of ways you can, I hate the word play, but you can win at the commodities market. And Vancouver, British Columbia is one of the best places I know, especially if you like to hit home runs. Vancouver is not for the faint of heart, should I say. So Jay, welcome to the Rich Dad Radio Show.
It's great to be back, Robert. It's good to see you.
So as a Canadian, when you look at America with us, we're going to shut our government down. You guys have Trudeau, which is almost as bad as ours. Who's worse, Trudeau or Biden? I haven't figured that one out yet.
I think we got you beat, man, to be honest with you. I would take Biden right now over who we've got in charge. Any day of the week.
I have never seen such incompetent leadership throughout the world.
It's, I hope in Canada specifically, we're getting a grand wake-up call to how important elections are because, we put a guy in office. Truthfully, Robert, I would wager that most people elected him because he was young, because they liked his haircut, because he seemed cool. I'm not stretching here. I think this was a lot of the rationale behind how investors cast their votes, and we're paying that cost now dearly. And for the first time in my life, I'm very concerned about the country that my grandkids will grow up in. Right? I've got 3 young kids. I'll be a grandfather one day. And I'm actually right now, my wife and I are exploring the globe for optionality. Now we hold both passports, Canadian and US. So, we spend equal time north and south of the border. We're also putting roots down in Southeast Asia right now, specifically in Indonesia for a few reasons. But, it's like that's kind of how I think about the future of the West right now. I'm just that uncertain about it. Now we haven't pulled shoot and jumped yet, but I'm putting the optionality down. I want to have that available to me. Um, you mentioned the silent market right now and how much wealth is consolidated at the top in a select few names. And, I mean, your introduction today kind of laid out how dire the outlook might be in terms of like an insolvent country, a government shutdown, credit crunches, all of this stuff. I feel right now there's a few things happening in macro that is not getting enough attention. And if you're not paying attention, you can get severely hurt. But if you are paying attention, you can make a lot of money. And you mentioned a couple things. What would cause the market to crash, right? What would cause some of these top names, these top tech names, to experience severe selling pressure? And the number one reason that I think about is, well, people are just going to need money. They're going to need to sell because they're going to be squeezed elsewhere in their life. And if
Right.
their cost of living continues to go up, that's inevitable. And
Right.
we're already seeing credit card delinquencies at all-time highs, auto loan delinquencies at all-time highs, new credit card application rejections coming in at all-time highs. People are reaching for credit because they can't afford their life and they can't get access to it. Now
Right.
that's one bucket, but the second piece of this is that oil is going up really quickly right now. And there's some things in macro that are complex and there's some things that are simple. And a simple concept is that when the price of energy goes up, the price of everything goes up. And,
Oh God.
and we're looking at oil prices right now, but diesel prices are already at all-time highs for this time of year and up 60% just since the summer in Europe. Now, I know most American, Canadian consumers don't look at, EIA inventory data and reports, but outside of OPEC, the only significant growth in the oil sector has come from unconventional shale in the US. And that's for like the last 12 years. And this is now rolled over and significantly enough that I'm quite concerned about domestic production. Like this has been led by the Permian Basin. We're now producing less oil each month than the month prior. New reports came out just last week that October is again forecasted to be lower numbers than September. Now, we may not read EIA inventories on the street in America and Canada, but I guarantee you the Saudis and the Russians do. And their extension of their supply cuts is not a coincidence. They've now extended their supply cuts into the new year. But quietly last week, Russia also announced a temporary ban on the export of gas and diesel, right on the heels of this. And, we're already struggling to refine enough diesel for, what the world needs. Um, and so these
Oh,
last,
Jay, you're going a little bit too far here. So
yeah, all right.
hang on. Okay. So let's get back to your friend Trudeau here. See, I remember his father and his mother, and the joke is, if you look at Trudeau, your Trudeau today, he looks like Fidel Castro. I'm just making fun because if you don't make fun of this stuff, you're gonna go crazy.
Yeah.
And his mother was a wild woman. I remember her. There's photographs of her where my mother won't let me see. So anyway, that's who's running the show right now. Plus, you have this guy Klaus Schwab. You have all of this stuff is going on at World Economic Forum. But what you're talking about is oil runs the world, and diesel is the far more important than gasoline because diesel gets trucks too and things. So my question is, how does a person take all this information and make an investment? So I bought 4 more green boxes. Every time I have extra money, I don't want to save dollars because, as I said earlier, the government is, how do you say it? They're on the verge of shutting down. And the question is the US government going to print or not print? And all they know how to do is print.
Mhm.
So when people say, well, why do you buy gold and silver? I've been buying silver since 1964. when I held up a little silver coin and I could see the copper around it. And ever since then, I literally have tons of silver. I just don't save dollars. Yet most of the listeners today on this Rich Dad Radio show and the Jay Martin program here are been brainwashed into saving dollars or Canadian loonies or yen or pesos. And I think that's what we've got to break people away from, because they actually trust paper. I can't, today I still I talk to these people, I'm blue in the face. I said, why are you saving dollars? So they don't know why.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say to somebody, it's that old mantra from years and years ago: go to school, get a job, work hard, pay your taxes, save money. I don't save dollars. I don't save loonies, the Canadian dollars. I don't save yen. I don't save any of that stuff. I save hard. I do mean hard, gold and silver. And I do own gold mines and silver mines. And the very simple reason is I just don't trust my government. When I was trashing Trudeau, I was also trashing Biden. Man, that guy's the biggest criminal I've ever met my whole life. They're finally investigating the Biden crime family. Finally. Donald Trump is my good friend. His sons and I are good friends. His two sons are fantastic young men. And this guy Hunter Biden, that guy is a convicted felon for having a fake gun or something. You know what I mean? They do everything to piss everybody off. So in today's world where everything is so unstable due to unstable leadership, what would you say to somebody who's saving dollars or Canadian dollars or pesos or yen or euros? What would you say to them?
I'd say the key word that you mentioned was trust. People trust the currency, right? And what you need to understand is that with any investment, and fiat currency is an investment, you're holding your purchasing power in that asset being paper money, and every asset has counterparty risk. And we don't talk as much about counterparty risk with fiat currency, as we should. But
okay, wait. Don't go any further, because we're an educational program. What does counterparty risk mean to you?
Yeah, so for me, it's whoever's holding the other side of that bet. So real simple. If I'm holding paper dollars, then I'm storing my purchasing power in that asset, which is paper dollars. The counterparty is whoever is in control of the value of that asset. In this case, it's the distributing government of that currency.
It could be the U.S. government, the Treasury.
Yeah, and if they print more of that asset, then the value of it drops, because as you increase the supply of anything, its purchasing power decreases, right? Supply goes up, value goes down. That's
Okay, so let me ask you this, Jay. As a Canadian looking in on America, here we're going to shut down the U.S. government because we can't pay our bills. If you're a gambling man, would you bet the U.S. is going to print more money or stop printing and actually start paying its bills?
I have no doubt they will continue printing. That's
So
the
why would you
blueprint of.
save paper? Why would anybody save paper? So that's, you and I already drank the Kool-Aid on gold and silver and mining shares. Jay, I just can't understand why people would save paper.
Well, it's just a lack of education, Robert. I think that, you can go through 13 years of public school education and never touch key concepts of money, right? Credit, interest, counterparty risk, all this stuff. Where does money come from? All of this. And so it's a foreign concept to most people. But I mean, a dollar used to just be a promissory note. It was a promise that you could redeem that dollar for the equivalent in gold, right? That was what controlled and stabilized currencies. We don't have that anymore. And since 1971, we haven't had that, right? A gold-backed currency. So now your currency is backed by nothing other than the credibility of the issuing government. So you have to ask yourself the question, do you trust the government? And if the answer is no, then why would you trust their currency? Because it's the same thing.
So we'll be back. We'll be right back in a little while with Jay Martin. And we'll go into the VRIC, the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. The reason I like the VRIC is a lot of investor conferences going, but I'll come back and I'll explain to you why I especially like the VRIC. I'll be right back.
Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Kiyosaki, co-host of the Rich Dad Radio Show. Robert and I have warned that 2023 was going to be a roller coaster of volatility. After all, the stock market is largely flat this year, except for a handful of tech companies. And other asset classes are struggling to meet expectations. One survey reveals that living paycheck to paycheck is the most common lifestyle in America, even for those making six-figure incomes. Combined with hundreds of thousands of layoffs in just the last few months, it's clear a financial storm is brewing. The question to ask yourself is, are you safe? For years, Robert and I and other investors have been putting more and more money into assets that can still climb when the stock market flatlines. One investment that doesn't seem to be affected by the ups and downs of the stock market is art. In fact, one of our close friends and advisor recommends art as his number one asset protection. Even more, contemporary art prices have outpaced the S&P 500's total return over the last 27 years by 136%. If you think art as an investment is something you want to pursue, then there is a vehicle that allows you to do that without investing millions, thanks to Masterworks, our longtime sponsor. Their platform lets you invest in shares of painting by icons like Picasso and Banksy. Masterworks now has $800 million in assets under management. But thanks to our friends at Masterworks, you can skip their waitlist. Just click the link in the description for this episode. Offerings have sold out in minutes, but Rich Dad listeners can skip the waitlist going to masterworks.art/richdad. That's masterworks.art/richdad. See important disclosures at masterworks.com/CD. Hi, everyone. I'm Kim Kiyosaki, co-host of the Rich Dad Radio Show. And I want to thank today's sponsor, our friends at Gold Alliance. You know, we should all be concerned about high inflation, a looming recession, the very troubled banking system, and out-of-control spending in Washington. And the fact is, during every major crisis in U.S. history, many of those who failed to prepare watched their savings, investments, and retirement funds plummet, while others with the foresight to own gold helped preserve their wealth and purchasing power. Now, we're facing several major crises at once, and we may soon face even more economic turmoil. So please don't wait. Consider gold and put yourself on the road to financial peace of mind. The new free 2023 Gold Guide from our friends at Gold Alliance can show you how. Just visit www.freegoldguide.com/Robert or call 1-800-473-4585. Republican governor and conservative commentator Mike Huckabee says Gold Alliance is the only gold provider he recommends to his friends and family. Please visit freegoldguide.com/Robert or call now at 1-800-473-4585. Thank you.
Welcome back, Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show. Good news and bad news about money. And like I said, I was talking about this is September 2023. I think I don't follow the dates anymore. The U.S. government is on the verge of shutdown because we're not going to pay our bills. The stock market is in a silent top, which means companies like Apple are crashing. Today, Apple shares are down. And all of this, people are so gullible. Go to school, get a job, work hard, save money, and invest for the long term in a well-diversified portfolio of stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and ETFs. I can't believe that. I never drank that Kool-Aid. Another thing, too, is our guest today is Jay Martin. Young man, very bright. He puts on the VRIC, Vancouver Resource Investment Conference. It's a conference I recommend. Once again, Rich Dad is purely educational. I talk about gold and silver or stocks. I don't say you should buy anything unless you check it out yourself. So, Jay, would you tell us about the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference? And then I'll tell people why I look forward to it.
Yeah, certainly, Robert. And it's been great having you there, by the way. So it's a conference that I produce every year in Vancouver, British Columbia, with a strict focus on the hard commodities market. And so we'll see about 5,000, 6,000 investors at the conference this year. It's January 21st and 22nd in Vancouver, British Columbia. And there'll be about 350 mining companies there looking to raise capital. They're traded on public markets, about 5,000 investors and 120 keynote speakers that we put on stage so that the audience can learn from people who have been in the game a long time, made lots of money, lost lots of money, et cetera, and learn from their lessons and expertise and try to make some sense of the smartest home for their cash for the year and consecutive years moving forward. So it's very focused on the metals industry. Absolutely.
The reason I like it is because it's an entrepreneur's market. In other words, when I go to other conferences, they have the majors are called the big mining companies. What I love about Vancouver is that's where I went to when I was a lot younger. And I was one of these guys looking for a gold mining deal. And I remember walking, and talking to all these people in Vancouver, because Vancouver where the startups are. So if you're a startup guy, you go to in tech, you go to Silicon Valley. If you're a startup in resources and mines, in gold and silver, you go to the VRIC. So if you're a startup guy, that's why I love Vancouver, because I was out there. I had no idea what I was doing. I took my first company public. If you look behind me, the cash flow board game, a lot of those outer ring deals there are deals I took public, or I was promoting, into the public market through Vancouver. So if you're a startup, if you're an entrepreneur guy, and you want to learn about how the next mega mines come out, you go to VRIC, because the thing I love about it, most of the mines, most of the people there talking to you are juniors. I mean, they're just startups. They're young guys. And so you go and you talk to them and says, what do you got here? So, well, I got this vein here in Chile. I got this vein in Argentina. And they're on a wing and a prayer. I just love it talking to them. But also that's where, if you're lucky, you'll find the biggest deals in the world. And I predict this, the more incompetent, we started a whole thing on how competent Trudeau and Biden are. The more incompetent our leaders are, the more valuable silver, this is silver here, and this is gold gets, and the more worthless this toilet paper becomes. So if you have a chance, I would look into the VRIC for education purely. You have a chance to go and talk to all these young people, about what are you doing? How do you start this up? You want to find out about tech? Go to Silicon Valley. You want to find out about gold and silver? Go to Vancouver. Any comments on that, Jay?
That's a thorough analysis. I mean, the way I look at the commodity sector is it's the step before technology, right? So I invest in tech as well, startups specifically. I like investing in entrepreneurs, as you mentioned, and prior to tech development, you need the raw materials that build out tech products. And right. I mean, right now in this era of, call it deglobalization, countries aren't sharing the resources that they used to. And so as a consequence, the value of commodities is going to go up because they're going to become harder to get your hands on. Our mission with this conference, Robert, is as you put it, right? It's let's give the earliest stage companies who are exploring the world for the materials that we all need, right? Let's put them on the stage and give them the opportunity to promote their companies, to get in front of investors. And simultaneously, let's give investors the opportunity to get in on the ground floor of maybe the next mineral discovery. Now, as you mentioned, it's a super high risk market. It's absolutely not somewhere that I'd recommend beginner investors go ever, because stock picking on itself is risky. Stock picking early stage is as risky as it gets, right? And so like you, I don't recommend stocks. I don't recommend individual stocks. I put my cash in that market. Absolutely. What we have on stage are a bunch of money managers, serially successful entrepreneurs who have a track record of outperforming, right? And so I want to hear what they're thinking, what they're expecting, and where they're putting their cash. And so that's what my show is all about.
Right. And I'll let you know that because I spent so much time in Vancouver, Canada, I'm a multi-millionaire today. That's what I learned there. Marin Katusa and I took the richest gold mine in America public. If I hadn't spent so much time in Vancouver learning about startup mining and all this, I would never have been in that deal. So everybody wants to get rich quick. And Jay and I will always say, you come for the education. You come to make your mind smarter, understand good and bad and evil. A lot of bullshit out there. But you come to learn. If you want to just come to get rich quick, then go to Wall Street. They'll lie to you all you want. Or talk to a financial planner. You know what I mean? Oh, buy ETFs. I'm going, you got to be kidding me. But that's where the average person is at. One more thing I want to say is that you said something about Indonesia, right? I was just in Singapore talking to my friend Jim Rogers. A lot of people don't know who Jim Rogers is, but his book was Hot Commodities. Mm-hmm. He's also George Soros's partner in the Quantum Fund. So I was in Singapore with him about 5 days ago, and he and I were laughing and laughing and laughing and laughing because he also wrote the book Investment Biker. It's how he climbed on a motorcycle and traveled the entire world on a motorcycle. And we're laughing about that. What an adventure life is. And so we're talking about how the average guy comes out of college. They're looking for a 2-bedroom, 1-bath house in the suburbs. They want a 401k and they want to be safe. And there's other people who travel the world looking for deals. And because of the VRIC, Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, I travel the world. I climb mountain peaks. I went across Mongolia, through Argentina. It's such a big world out there. And the average guy is just trying to play it safe, save money, and invest in a few stocks. So when you said you want to go to Indonesia, I'm going, go for it, brother. Go for it, because you're a young man. I was talking to, who's that guy? Doug Casey. Doug Casey is another guy. Where does Doug Casey live? We don't know. He's always searching the world for investments. So that's one of the beautiful things I said to young people about your age, Jay. You have family responsibilities and all that, but there's also this huge world out there. And Jim Rogers and I were just yakking about it. So what was it like going across Russia on a motorcycle? What's it like going through Africa on a motorcycle? And the average guy is worried about how he's going to make car payments on his new Honda Accord. Give me a break. So the VRIC is not for the faint of heart. That's what I'm saying. And you want to see the world, I'd go to Canada and see it, because I've become a multi-millionaire from what I've learned at the VRIC. I can honestly say that.
Yeah, that's such an interesting perspective. And it is that. We gather entrepreneurs from all over the world who have projects all over the world, and they're out there, they're climbing those mountains of Mongolia. They're in the backcountry, making those high risk bets. It's and on the Indonesia front, I love your sentiment around that, because I got 3 young kids, but isn't it therefore my obligation to show them that they should step out from the norm, right? And maybe experience several years in a country where they don't speak the language and have to readjust to a different culture. And that my wife and I are very dedicated to that, right? It's very important.
That's why Jim moved to Singapore for his kids.
Right. Yeah.
He says they need to. He says they need to learn to speak Mandarin. Mm-hmm. He did it for the kids, not in spite of the kids.
Right.
Another friend, he raised his kids in Indonesia too. He was a missionary out there, and the kids are the greatest kids because they're not, I don't know, as jaded as some of the American kids are. They were raised in the country, and they got mud between their toes when they walked around.
Yeah.
For some of these kids today, I look at most men today, all they want to be is TikTok dancers,
Right. Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Well,
VRIC is not for the faint of heart, but it's also for the world traveler. And you can see the world in a few days and talk to some very interesting people. I don't endorse them, but let the buyer beware, as they say.
Yeah. Sound advice. Sound advice.
So what's your before we end up here, what's your forecast on gold and silver? I got hammered last night. I was at a party because I've been a silver bug for about 30 years, Like I said, in 1964, I held up a silver coin like this, and it wasn't silver anymore, it was copper. And copper meant it had been debased and it violated Gresham's law. And what Gresham's law states, when when bad money enters the system, good money goes into hiding.
Mm.
And today, Jay, we have more and more bad money entering our system. And these fucking morons out there are still saving this crap.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't believe it.
Yeah.
And right now, I would really open up, saying maybe I should get one of these things. This is a gold coin. This is about $2,200. This is about $35. Why would you hang on to this when our governments are corrupt? Yours and mine.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to ask yourself the question, how much do you trust government policies? How much do you trust that the government has your best interest in mind from a freedom standpoint, from a health standpoint? And if your answer is, well, I don't trust them very much at all, then why would you trust their issuing currency? Because it is one and the same party distributing that. And it's funny how people somehow compartmentalize their lack of trust for government and the establishment, but simultaneously trust their currency. And they separate those two things when in reality, it's one and the same. And you need to recognize that it is. And the only way to protect yourself from the reckless decisions of that governing body is to exit the system. And one way to exit the system is to park your wealth in the only asset that is not impacted by anybody else's poor decisions, right? And that is the historic form of money, which, as you mentioned, is gold and silver. It's historic money, and it's money that is not subject to the poor decision making of somebody else, right? You own it, intrinsic value. It's proven that it restores and holds purchasing power over the rise and fall of empires hundreds of times throughout history. Now's a good time to put some wealth on that lifeboat, right? Because you don't know what the big ship's going to do next. It's a little bit uncertain out there.
Yeah, another thing, if you're under 50 right now, I'd go to the VRIC, come early, pack a lunch, and walk as many tables as you can to talk to all these young guys coming up with their dreams and aspirations of the next mega gold mine. I remember talking one time, I was talking to this guy, I think he had a copper mine north of Vancouver. He almost got me to buy.
Mm-hmm.
I worked him over. But I don't know what happened to it, but he was a very good salesman, how he found the copper and all this stuff. And going, it's so exciting because, what made America great was people like the 49ers. They came all the way across America in search of gold. And today they're looking for Silicon Valley. But the wise men still travel for gold, frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And I still trust gold and silver, not my government.
I like it.
Anyway, Jay, thank you very much. Good luck on the VRC. Please give us, you have a course you want to promote? Investment course?
Anybody who's beginning their investment journey into gold, silver, or the commodities industry, we produced a course. It's a 10-chapter video course called The Commodity University. And you can find it at thecommodityuniversity.com. But this is like a 101 for somebody who wants to understand basic supply and demand dynamics in the commodity sector and how to begin building a portfolio. So it's very simple, I'm excited. I love it, actually. I think it's a great piece of content, but thecommodityuniversity.com if you're interested in checking that out and beginning your journey as a commodity investor.
Is there a charge for it or is it free?
There is a charge for it. Yeah.
How much is it?
It's $140 on our website.
That's all?
That's right. Yeah, it's for beginner commodity investors, Robert. Like over the last 18 months, I've been asked so many times by new subscribers, new viewers, new conference attendees, how do I get started building a commodity investment portfolio? And, there's 100 answers to that question and they're all kind of right. So what we did is we just assembled a course for the new investor, the rookie investor who doesn't know anything about commodities. I mean, the first question in the course is, what is a commodity? We went right back to basics here. And I think it's important to provide that education to people right now because the opportunity in commodities is massive, but the experience is very low. And so it's very beginner.
Yeah, there's a lot of people, it brings up a subject called Bitcoin and crypto and all that. People so distrust the US dollar, any fiat currency, that more and more people, countries, businesses are making their own crypto.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So, and being an old guy, I go, why go through that trouble of trying to figure out what's a real crypto and a fake crypto? Just give me one of these for $35. I'm a lot happier.
Yeah.
You can't print this. You can't store it. I mean, you can't, you can steal it, but you can't print this thing. And you can't print this. And 1,000 years from now, this will still be gold. And 1,000 years from now, this will still be silver. What's wrong with it? So thank you very much, Jay. Good luck on you. Good luck on the VRIC.
My pleasure. Thank you, Robert.
And we come back, we'll have final words. Welcome back. Robert Kiyosaki, the Rich Dad Radio Show, the good news and bad news about money. Once again, you can go to richdad.com and listen to this program again because repetition is how you learn. And especially important if you have friends, family members, or business associates who really need to know the difference between real money and fake money. And I started this program off talking to Jay Martin. I mean, his leader, Trudeau, what a goofball he is. And we have Biden, what a goofball he is. So I've never seen such incompetence leadership anywhere in the world. It's pretty sad. But what makes it worse is they're going to shut our U.S. government down because we can't pay our bills. And so my question to you today for this Rich Dad Radio Show, this is fake money. Believe it or not, this is fake money. It looks like a Kennedy $50, but if you lift it up this way, it's fake. It's copper. This started in 1964. This little fake $50 is now worth $10, but it's fake. This here is real silver. It's about $35. Not that much. Everybody can afford $35. And this here is real gold. And we don't give investment advice, but right now I would do my best to get your head out of you-know-what and stop working hard and saving this stuff here. This is fake. This is fake. This is real. And this is real. Good luck to you all. Start going for real money, not fake money. Thank you.
This podcast is a presentation of Rich Dad Media Network.